Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. I'm your host, Aris the Green Carpenter, and today with me, I have a special guest. We'll be talking about storytelling for sustainable business. Today, we have Mr. Benjamin. Welcome,
Hi.
Ben.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming to the show. So
Mhm.
today we want to talk about storytelling or story selling. Right now, that's the buzzword lah. Right now, right? Story selling.
Yeah.
But before we go into that, I think for the benefit of the audience and me myself again, can you share a little bit about your journey and what you do, what you did, and what you're doing now, and a little bit about yourself lah.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Benjamin Yong. I am a business writer. I have been writing for 16 years for various industries, mostly advertising, and then followed by like fundraising. And now I'm writing for a insurance broker company called Marsh. I'm the editor and writer there as well. Um, yeah, I think that's really a short intro.
So I know Ben like since last year, and we went to the same course, and I learned a lot from Ben in terms of writing and storytelling. So today I'm glad that you're here with me, Ben, and we can
Mhm.
share your wisdom to more people. So I think let's go straight to it now. I mean, like storytelling. Why storytelling and why is it important?
um, I think most businesses fail to understand that the purpose of storytelling, like why is it important, right? Stories actually make it easy to understand something. So if your business uses storytelling as a key component, it makes it very easy for your potential customers or target audience or anyone actually to understand what your business is about, right? And when they understand what your business is about, then they can then decide whether or not it's something they can back, right? So storytelling helps you build a purpose, right, or share that purpose so that people can support you, right? And when they support you, they're more likely to say buy your products, use your service, right? And it's not something like a brand strategy or something. Literally, it's like a commitment, right? It's not like a campaign, like your Shopee 11/11 or 12/12. It's literally something that uh, is built around, right? So you build your business around the fact that, for example, you're a sustainable business, right? And that is like the whole common thread that goes along your whole storytelling. Okay, so for storytelling or story selling in this case, um, what you're really selling is not so much your company, but more like the belief, right? The purpose of your company. And whatever product or service that you offer, that is like secondary, right? So if they buy into your purpose or belief, they will naturally buy or support your products, right? Or your service.
So Gopi says hi. Hi Gopi. Thank
Hey,
you
hi,
for
go.
tuning in. Yeah, so it's important, and like I think I just want to share a little bit like how I get into storytelling. So like few years ago, this is even before we meet. I wanted to look at branding though, and then
Hmm.
like when I look into branding, how to do branding and all that, and then I come across storytelling, and then I feel like I'm so compelled to stories because I love stories, and I decided, okay, how can I look into stories? So when I start to do it, I don't know how to do it though. It's very difficult. Right now it comes easy, but last time when I start, it's very difficult. So what? So my question is like, if someone wants to utilize story, doesn't matter for business or personal, how can they actually start doing it? Because we learn about writing during school, but what we are doing right now is something else. So how can you start?
Okay. Um, for for most people, if you're just starting out or you're just about to do this, I think what you need to do is you need to understand like what is your business, and you need to have a defined purpose for the business, right? And once you have that down, right? For example, like the Green Factory is about sustainability, right? And then promoting sustainable furniture or sustainable products, right? Then you need to sort of learn what the customer needs, right? Um, and then when you do learn like what they need, like for example, if they do need furniture or they do need like kitchenware, right? um, you then sort of like, okay, marry that both together, right? So how you go about that is literally describing it, right? You start the story with like, the purpose, right? And then you found out that, okay, there's actually a real genuine customer need for it. People support it, they genuinely care about, say, sustainable furniture, sustainable practices, right? And you sort of have that as the core of your story, right? The introduction, right? And when you start the story that way, it naturally branches out to the little things, right? Like how the people in your company care about it, how the products you build are, part of that sustainability drive, the choices you make to promote that. You gotta take the time to also build the brand, right? So wherever presence you have, be it on social media or on ground, right, with your suppliers, you want to make sure that they understand your brand as well. You want to make sure that you're consistent, right, with spreading this message, this purpose, right? So it's the story is not just a post or an ad or a campaign, right? It's literally whole business story that is perpetual, it's continuously growing as your business grows, right? And most importantly, you have to start with your purpose first lah. You got to make sure that's very clear, right? Only then everything else will fall into place, like I said, right? So when you have that top view of, okay, I'm going to be a sustainable furniture business, for example, right? Or in another case, maybe I'm going to be a sustainable property developer, right? Or something. Then you roll out and then you go like, okay, maybe this project or this type of product, right, is something. Yes, I've identified that customer needs it, and then you sort of phrase it right around that. That's really good. Yeah.
So, in a way, when you talk about that, it's about solving the need, it's about knowing what the core of what you're doing. So, it's basically like understanding your own business or having clarity in what you want to do for the business itself. So, by
Yeah.
having that clarity, it helps with the storytelling. So,
Correct.
it's not just about crafting the story for a company, right?
Hmm.
It's about
Yes.
that understanding. So then you can do the storytelling. And
So it's not tacked
uh,
on, it's not Lego where you go like, oh,
uh,
I'm suddenly going to be sustainable, macam tu, like
mm.
it just doesn't work that way. Right? It has
So if
to
you don't have
from the
that
core.
clarity, then you can't even make an effective rollout of stories. Then
It will be uphill battle, I think, for any business, if they don't have that purpose. For example, if our life's purpose, for example, is making money, right? Which is very vague, right? It's just
don't
okay,
we all? Huh?
yeah, yeah, right. So it becomes like, okay, then you can do whatever, right? Ethical or not, right? To make money. But why do you choose to say be a hard worker, someone who is pious and religious as well, and also, law abiding? You could do so many other things to get, money, right? And if at the end of the day, if you think that's what you are in terms of story, then yeah, okay, that would be the story you tell, right? But what I see is most businesses that start off with this purpose very, very clearly, they tend to like find it very easy to share what they do, because it's just part of you, right? You're genuine, right? So you're not like forcing or faking it lah, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
basically being a real a business with real people, right? Who care about real things, real problems, right?
Mm. Sasi said, "Hey Haris, hey Ben, hey Sasi, thank you for
Hey,
tuning in." Sasi
hi.
is also doing a lot of storytelling with her
Oh,
Earth Air. So she's awesome as well. She's been in the show as well. So thank you for tuning in, Sasi. Yeah. So when just now you said like it comes from within, so it's an extension of the company per se. So
hmm,
w- what is like the so we start we start with the core, and then we decide on what we want to
hmm,
push the products or whatever, the
yeah.
benefit and all that. So like
Hmm.
then how how do you craft it, like what are the good story selling practices that you can do after that?
Okay, so this is somewhat, I guess, in my realm of specialty, but there are a couple of things you can do, lah, right? The most common thing I like to basically tell my customers last time would be um, to say what your competitors do, but how you do it differently, right? And why it matters, right? So, for example, I'm going to use the Green Factory because it's easier and also relatable to me. Um, like for example, normal furniture companies would just buy wood from just anywhere as long as it's cheap or it's decent in quality so that they can craft the product, right? But why does the Green Factory choose maybe renewable sources of wood, right? And how does that matter to the customer, right?
Mm,
That actually is the difference, right? That actually separates you from the competition because you choose to do something different, which is not easy, right? But it brings out that purpose. You understand? Because you are trying to say, this is what makes me different from my competitor. Sure, they might be,
mm,
they might do equally well selling furniture of the same chair, for example. But because I choose to use this type of wood, I am going the extra mile for you and for this belief. And if you believe me and if you believe in the purpose of conservation and sustainability, then it helps us out, right? Another point, and this is really related to the first one, it then becomes you're very genuine, right? So good story selling or storytelling is about being genuine, right? A lot of times, a lot of ads, people have no time for bullshit. It's really too disruptive. So make your point, right? And if they're interested, people will continue to either read or learn more about your brand or about your products naturally because you reflect the values that they share, right? On your brand, right? So if they believe something, if they believe that what you believe in is what they believe in, naturally, you know they would come, right? They would read, they would support you, right? Sooner or later. Okay. Um, and one more thing, and I think this is the key point. For most good stories or brands, it is very important to not always talk about yourself. Okay. Sometimes you need to talk more about the cause, right? In this case, for sustainability, the cause or the bad things that can happen out of it is look at climate change and global warming and how bad it is, and we're already feeling it in Malaysia, right? The heat is extra hot in Malaysia these couple of years, and that's something that literally has an impact in our lives, right? So that kind of story and how you sort of like relate that to your brand, right? The fact that you're doing all this for conservation and for sustainability, uh, that becomes a key thing because people who then believe in sustainability, they would obviously like feel like, okay, maybe by supporting your brand or your company, I'm able to do something about it, right? I'm just going to read out a real short statistic here, basically by the Star. This is March 2020. It basically said that 94%, right, of students, right, took some form of action to tackle climate change, right? Now, some form of action could be anything. They could be, going to Gotong Royong or, something, right? But for the most part, I would say they basically maybe purchase goods or use services that have sustainability, and they feel connected to that because at the end of the day, that is something they feel worthwhile, right? And this is not a small service, but 11,000 students between the age of 13 and 19, right? So that's a very significant statistic, especially if you're a brand or a business to consider, like, because the target audience that you are probably going to sell to are, slightly on a younger age, right? Maybe the old farms are not really that concerned about sustainability, but younger customers, they definitely will support the kind of
Hmm.
initiative, right? It's a
Awesome,
lot
awesome.
more.
And share with me the link, Ben.
Oh, sure, sure. Can just share it
So
in chat. Maybe I can just share it in chat here.
yeah,
Yeah. So for
yeah.
start,
So
okay.
yeah, so yeah, I think like it's a good way to approach the way you do things or the way you try things. But I'm guessing a lot of it comes with practice. So if we know all this, how to start, how to what things to look into, but we don't do anything about it, it won't grow, right? So how
Yep.
do you do that, like I'm sure you talk to a lot of people about like consistency and all that. So how can we can be more consistent if we, because doing this requires quite it's a bit heavy or difficult to do to start lah. So how do you get that practice into your habits?
Mm, I think it starts with you as the leader, right? So a lot of storytelling, in a way, it's like a pass off, like, how an elder would share a story, right? As a lesson, right, to younger people. And who says you can't do that in a company or business as well, right? And what you really want to do is sort of make it a habit to share, right? To express, maybe start off something simple like how you feel, right? About maybe the goals or the mission or the vision, right? Some people might find it very contrived, like this is not worth my time.
Mm,
Um, but that's the nature of stories, right? Some people are interested and some people are not, right? So only speak to those that genuinely care about your story, and for the people, the team you're building, only find people that really care about this issue,
mm,
because at the end of the day, that's what matters. The whole team has to be behind you, right?
mm,
And the leader has to also believe in the vision, right? So
mm,
in this case, yeah, if you're talking about sustainability on one hand publicly, but then privately you're not being sustainable, or that's just something you say, to part of marketing, then it won't fly, like, because it's all by experience at the end of the day, right?
and then I think like it comes with authenticity, right? Like what you say previously. So because right now, especially on LinkedIn or social media, people are using a lot of stories as well. But
Hmm.
sometimes you can suss that is like it's not authentic. It's more of like clickbaity or like just want because people want to whether it's real or not. That is something else. But like, how do you portray authenticity?
Okay. Creating authentic content is hard, and even for someone like me, 16 years in, I'm telling you, if you do it every day, it's ridiculously hard, right? Um, I would say authenticity comes from within, right? So if you have nothing to say that's authentic in a sense today or this week, maybe don't say anything, right?
Mm,
But because you're in this industry, you're bound to come across something that you feel you might have an opinion on it, right? And to me, that is easy to share, right? Um, for example, recently, in politics, somebody mentioned something about using chopsticks and stuff, right? And nobody mentioned the fact that chopsticks made out of wood can be sustainable. That literally could be something, could be a topic, right? Or the fact that maybe COVID has been really great for sustainability practices simply because eat uh, people start to eat healthier because they're cooking at home, right? And
They
you're
don't
not
move
buying.
around as much.
Yeah, they don't move around as much. That's right. So the impact is, well, it's not very clear at the moment, but you could say
Mm.
this is part of something that you can have an informed opinion on, right? And that informed opinion is basically your authentic self sharing what you think, right?
Mm.
So how that reflects on your brand, right, is a little bit more selective. So you have two types of brands. You have your self branding, and then you have your company brand, right?
Correct, correct.
If it's always easier to create content for yourself because your opinion, right? But for your company or for a brand, you have to be a bit more selective, and has to be a bit more curated, a bit more filtered in a sense like, is this what your brand would want to say, or is this what your brand should be saying, right? One thing that I find really easy to create in terms of content, authentic content for brand, is literally to look at some of my sustainable competitors and support them
Mm.
instead. You know why? Because we're all in this journey together. We're all, being part of
Mm.
this sustainability movement. Sure, they might compete against me on business, but I really care you know, about climate change. I really care about sustainability. So I will support them, even if they are my competitors, right? It's the bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture, right? So anyone or any business, you can, use that as content as well, right? It's not just solely, again, it's not solely focused on you. It can
Correct,
be
correct,
on the
correct.
community. It can be on the movement, on a global scale as well. So you don't even have to genuinely just look at Malaysia, look at Singapore in the region, or in America. Yeah. So don't
Hmm.
limit yourself there.
I love what you say because like in this day and age it's you can't really do everything on your own. You have to work with a lot of people, and I think the age of competitive is already dead. Meaning like they are not really our competitors. They can actually be our ally because if they do well, the market and demand for for example sustainability product also goes bigger because people are aware,
Mhm.
and then your pie is also bigger. So that is something like I feel nowadays is moving towards that where it's more a collaborative thing, even though it looks like a competitor. So
Mhm.
like
Yes.
when it comes to storytelling, then it actually adds value to what we are going through. And
Yep.
I feel like because we live in the internet, the times of the internet, it's very, if you are faking it, after you can't really like maintain it for a very long time, right? Because people will like suss you up and they have a lot of other information. Yeah, so authentic is one, and then I think the other one is authority. Like, um, how do you portray authority? One, if you are already an authority, then it's straightforward lah. But especially when you want to start, like companies, they have something that they believe they can offer, but at the same time they're very small, so they don't have much traction. But they believe like the thinking behind what they're doing is something that a lot of people need to listen to.
Okay, so how do you build authority, especially when you're a small or starting business, right? First off, be humble and be honest, and just say you're a small starting business, right? It's the truth,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Start
yeah,
with the
yeah.
truth, okay? And again, right, like I said, when you first start, you have your purpose, so share that, right? And this is where the whole journey begins, right? The whole storytelling part starts with the truth, starts with what you are, what you stand for, what kind of products or services that you're offering, right? And and then you just got to be consistent the whole way through. Once a year, maybe the anniversary of the company, you will repeat your story, all right? But in the process, you would still be constantly posting, right, on social media, working with people, right, in the industry, right, to sort of like cross over and share their target audience and share their, like people, for
mm,
example, if I was a sustainable business, I would definitely want to work with the Green Factory in the podcast, for example, like this, right? Because I want the same people who support you, right, to know that there's a new sustainable business in town, right? And
mm,
the same thing would be, would be said like if your competitor had a talk show, right, or something, right, you would want to go there, right, even though you might be competing in some way, simply because you both have different audiences, right? There
mm,
might be the same thing, in a sense like the pool of audience might be slightly similar, but not necessarily so, right? Because my friends are not your friends, right? So
correct,
by
correct.
introducing, say me to your friends right now, they know about me, and then if I bring you to, whatever, if I have a show, then my friends will know
Mm,
you as well, right? So look for these type of opportunities, right, and be consistent with your message. These are the two easiest things you can do, right? Networking, essentially.
mm. Um, I want to touch a little bit because it's in the topic. A lot of people ask me why do I share a lot of the things that I do. Like since we are one of the early one into the industry and we have been benefiting as being one of the only one. Um, but why are we telling people what do we do, what material we do, and all that? And then my answer was it's for the it's the bigger picture. You have to look at the bigger picture. Um, if only 1% or one company does it, like how much impact can you do to a larger scale, right? Because like activism is also one of the things that I do. So if I cannot make 1 million tables, but we need 1 million tables to be made in a sustainable way to have an impact in the environment. So if I were to do it alone, I cannot be alone. So I need to have a lot of people doing it. And at the same time, the market is so big. If you look at Malaysia, okay lah, we are quite small, 30 million, right? But if we look at the world, it's so huge. So like I cannot eat alone. So
That's
and
right.
if I teach someone 100% that I know and they do exactly or maybe a little bit different, they will have their own market. They will have their own clients because the way they are doing might be a little bit different because they are a different kind of organization. So we need to look into that, like going through that collaborative, with a new way of doing business. Is not where you just compete each other, right? It's together
Hmm.
you grow the pie, grow the knee. So I love.
I
I just want to touch on that lah.
I just want
Um,
to, bring up a
ah,
very good example, right? We
ah,
have McDonald's and then we have
yep.
KFC. They're both fast food companies, but they serve different things, but it's still food, right?
Correct,
Why can't
correct,
you do the same? Like like for sustainability as well, right? You could have two sustainable furniture companies. You could have
correct,
many
correct.
different types of sustainable stores, right? That's actually something growing, um, and if everybody shares and everybody starts talking more about it and people get more interested and they're aware that by supporting say their local sustainable stores that they're actually able to make an impact, right, be it small or big, right, then that will grow, the movement will grow,
Hmm.
right, and the belief will grow and people will start going like, okay, you know what, I choose, right, not to have straws in my drink, for example, right. Things like that.
Correct,
Small,
correct,
small
correct, correct,
but small but meaningful measures.
correct, correct. So going to the topic.
Hmm.
So if we know how to start, what are the good practices, practice, authenticity, authority, and I think the last question would be like, what mistake do you see people do when crafting stories, and how do you avoid it?
Ooh. Take your time. Because the purpose of your business is not something that you can just come out in a day. Maybe you can, but like you sort of need to understand that it's not something you rush into, right? I think a lot of people, the biggest reason why some people find me as a writer to help them is because they sort of know what they want to say, but they don't know how to say it, right? So, uh, if you're doing this alone, try to find out, how best to say it, right? So have a clear purpose, and then when you have a clear purpose, the whole brand strategy will follow, right? So know who you are, what you are, and how you want to connect with your audience, right? So if you want to connect with your audience genuinely, right, be genuine, right? Um, and another thing, very important part, um, don't um, don't fail to deliver, right? This might sound like a marketing term, but essentially, if for example you create a product or a service, just make sure that the experience that they're expecting uh, is good, right? So it doesn't mean you're a sustainable company. For example, means that the quality of your furniture uh, is not as good as maybe better, like non-sustainable furniture, for example, right? The whole experience is very important, right? And when people feel good supporting supporting your product or service, right? And they have a genuinely good experience with it. So, for example, if this chair is sustainable and it's really good, it's nice, and I find it easier, right? It works. It's functional as a chair. I have a good experience. Shipping, it came easy. It was easy to assemble or something like that. And then on top of that, I'm helping the earth. What a great feeling, right? So don't fail to deliver the experience. You can talk about sustainability all you want, but if you deliver a bad product experience, right, that's over, right? So two things, right? Don't rush into your brand, your brand purpose or your story, your business purpose, right? And don't fail to deliver, right?
Awesome, awesome. And
Mhm.
I think what you say is true. I always say to people or like new companies that want to look into ESG, ethical or sustainable endeavor, like people won't buy from you because of your cause. They might buy once lah, just because he wants to for the but it's not going to be a long term thing. Your products need to be as good or better than the the competitors, right, or a non sustainable way. And uh, the way that we should see sustainable business is not a separate because like businesses needs to work like a normal business. I always say like normal business that is not sustainable, they have to think maybe like 10,000 things. But a social enterprise or sustainable business, you have to think about 20,000 stuff. So it's an additional to the traditional business model. So it's you still have to make good product, you still have to do marketing, customer survey, everything is the same, but you have more things to do. So
That's right.
I think people sometimes see it as a NGO, an NGO lens where people just buy because you're doing a cause. So people would, right? And having stories will help you in terms of understanding your company yourself, and also like the customer you want to attract, because the stories is not for everyone. It's very specific. It craft, not maybe some people don't care about it, but you want to be able to talk to the people that care with it.
Those that
So
care, right? That's right.
yeah, correct, right? So we shouldn't cater to the mass, right? It needs to be very specific. And I think what the show represents, or what I'm trying to do as well, is so that companies that want to go into sustainability, they can use sustainability as a competitive advantage, where they differentiate themselves with their competitors. And for designers, architects, they can use sustainability as a way to differentiate themselves, because I think people thought that sustainability is just about saving the environment, but actually it can do a lot more to the person that is pursuing it. Like companies, you can actually make better profit, save a lot more money, and gain better customer acquisition or apa, staffing. So there's a lot of things that Sunstream brings into the table. So that's why this show try to explore this kind of thing, so that we know that it's not just about saving the tree, it's also saving the company themselves. Because
Yeah.
I have a knee with a previous knee. previous guests, where they say that eventually those companies that don't want to do sustainability will be phased out. It's like digitalization. If right now, if you don't have a online presence, eventually you will phase out, right? So sustainability is also something like that. So before we end, Ben, any last words or tips you want to share before we end the show?
Well, sustainability is a cause, all right? So it taps into the motivation of your customer to want to do good, to want to feel good, right? But it is not, and I repeat, it is not a single the only reason why people would support or buy or use your products, right? Again, just repeating what Harith has said, your service and product has to be good as a non-sustainable company, right? The extra edge you get from sustainability is literally the story, right? The belief that yes, I'm doing something right for conservation, for sustainability, right? So that feel good factor is what you're really providing, and that would set you apart from your competitor easily.
Awesome, awesome. So for everyone's tuning in, if you want to connect with Ben, you can. He's active on LinkedIn, so just search for Benjamin Yong Fan Kong, and you will connect with him. And for everyone else, if you find value in this sharing, do send it to your friends, your family that might benefit from it. And do join our conversation at Green Design Malaysia, where we talk about issues of sustainability and green design in Malaysia. And to end the show, uh, I would like to invite all of you to um, to the next episode, where we'll be talking to Melissa Chan, where she will talk more about PR. So how sustainable businesses can use PR for their businesses. And by then, see you next week and have a green week ahead. Bye, guys.